Hey guys, it's Jessica. Sorry it's been so long since I've updated. Made a few changes, learned a lot of things in the last few months, and I figured I would just get you an update. I plan to make it as concise but as complete as possible because, like I said, a lot of things have happened in the last few months in our fertility and family planning. So there's definitely a lot to update you on. Between now and the last video, we celebrated our 1 year anniversary, so that was super exciting. We had a few great trips, which is part of why it's taken me so long to say anything or make a new video. We visited my family back in Nebraska. We took a trip for our anniversary. It was really great. We were able to get our whole journey as far as trying to have a family. We were able to kind of walk away from that for a little while and take time to just enjoy being each other. So that was really wonderful. But as far as everything that's been going on, we've had a lot of tests done and a lot of plans made since we last did an update. So first thing, we did day 3 blood work, which I had told you I was going to be doing, and that came back pretty much as my doctor had expected. I have appears a mild form of PCOS. I had high testosterone and like obscenely high AMH. My testosterone was only a little high, but my AMH was, I think the normal range is somewhere between 1 and 4, and mine was like 11. So my doctor said that was really crazy high, but she also said that we can use that to our advantage when it comes to time for IVF. But that's jumping ahead, so let's go ahead and back up a little bit. I also had an HSG procedure completed. That was back in June, right before our vacation, and that was not nearly as uncomfortable as I had expected. I had heard so many things from so many different people about how painful it was, and the cramps were just awful. And I will say that for me, it really wasn't that bad. It was uncomfortable, but it wasn't so bad, and then I didn't end up having any spotting or weird, strange leaking afterwards either. The HSG is a test that they do so that they can go in and see if your tubes are open, which confused me why they would need to do that, since we know that I will never get pregnant naturally due to my husband's condition of congenital bilateral absence of the vas deferens. However, my doctor said that it was important for us to do not only for that, but also so that we could look and see if there's any like polyps or fibroids or anything weird hanging out in my uterus and make sure that it looks as normal as it can. And all of that turned out great. My tubes are open. There's no apparent issues in my uterus. So as far as that goes, I look healthy and ready for next steps. Other things that have happened in the last few months, we got genetic testing done. I'd said that we were going to need to get genetic testing done, so we did through a company called Progenity. They were able to test us for, I think it was almost 200 different genetic disorders that have varying likelihoods of being an issue. But primarily the reason that we chose the Progenity Global Panel was so that we could learn about cystic fibrosis in particular, because my husband's diagnosis made it very likely that he was a carrier of cystic fibrosis. And this specific test tested for about 600 genes. And so what came back was my genes looked perfect. Yay! I don't have any apparent issues with any of my genes. I don't appear to carry any of the CF genes. However, I will say that there's only 600 tested. There's at least 1,200 that are known. The other ones are just so incredibly unlikely that it would be cost prohibitive to test for every single one of them. But there's about I think like a 98 or 99% chance that I don't carry cystic fibrosis. On the other hand, what we learned was that my husband doesn't just carry it. Technically, he carries 2 genes, which means that he doesn't have cystic fibrosis, but it's part of the reason why he has issues. Why it's the exact reason why he has the congenital bilateral absence of the vas deferens. And that might be the cause of other issues that he deals with, but he doesn't have any of the like lung symptoms. What it does mean is that no matter what, every child that we have will be a carrier of cystic fibrosis. They wanted to remind us that just because they didn't find any of the cystic fibrosis genes for what they tested, it doesn't mean that there's a 0% chance that our children will have cystic fibrosis. There's technically still about a 1 or 2% chance that any children that we do have, even via IVF and ICSI, that they could still have cystic fibrosis, but we've decided that that's a risk that we're willing to move forward with, and just see where it goes. So either way, that's where we're at with that. My husband has 2 cystic fibrosis genes. I have none. All of our children will be carriers, but hopefully none of them should have cystic fibrosis. My husband also had to get some blood testing done just to make sure that his hormones looked great. They did. His hormones look perfect, so the doctor thinks that he is going to have no trouble finding sperm when they go in for his procedure. Speaking of which, his procedure is going to be PESA, which is percutaneous aspiration, percutaneous epididymal sperm aspiration. I think that's what it all stands for. He is having that procedure actually a week from today. They're hoping to get quite a bit of sperm. However, ultimately, all we need is enough sperm to fertilize all of the eggs that they get from me. So yeah, that procedure is happening a week from today. That's going to be happening on Tuesday, the September 17th. So we're looking forward to that. I plan to make a video that explains more about how that goes and what that all entails. My husband is nervous, but he's also looking forward to getting it over with, because once that part is done, his part is done. I also met with my doctor last week. That was on September 5th. Sorry, there's a calendar over there and my notes are over here, so that's why I'm looking all over the place. I met with my doctor on September 5th and we discussed our next steps and the financial aspect of the next steps. So what we learned is that based on everything we know, if my husband's procedure goes well and we end up getting some sperm and they look good, we'll go ahead and freeze that, and we're gonna start the IVF process next month. So we're super excited. We know it's not a 100% chance, it's only about a 50% chance that it works the first cycle that we do, and I think up to an 80% chance based on our age, but that's better than a 0, and we're really excited to get started and give it a shot. So right now, to prepare me, my doctor's got me on prenatal vitamins. I'm on metformin now. They've started that. That's supposed to increase my chances of well, it'll increase my egg quality, she said, and it'll increase my chances of a successful pregnancy based on my PCOS. So I'm on that now. That's been miserable, but I can talk about that in a different video. I'm not a fan of it so far, but I'm getting through it and it seems to be getting a little bit better. I've just had a lot of gastrointestinal distress related to taking it. I also started on birth control so that when it comes time for us to start adding in the artificial hormones, my body is not doing any of the crazy stuff that it does on its own. And I'm on baby aspirin, which I think is supposed to thin my blood so that it makes it more likely. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure what that's for, but my doctor said to take it, and I'm all for doing whatever I can do to make this process as successful as possible. We talked about the financial aspects of IVF and how much money we have to come up with beforehand. My husband's procedure, when all is said and done, is going to be about $3,000 total. All of that will be out of pocket because all of everything is out of pocket for our insurance purposes. Nothing's covered. So that'll be about $3,000 for that. And then by the beginning of October, or well, the beginning of the plan in October, I think we're planning on starting injections and the cycle around October 21st. So at that point, we'll have to have paid about, I think the estimate is about $10,000, including medication, for the IVF cycle, and that's just the retrieval and all of the testing and monitoring that leads up to it. So that's what we're asked to pay up front, and then we're doing a complete frozen cycle. So they'll monitor our embryos, and then all of the embryos that make it to day 5 that don't cease or stop growing at that point, all of the embryos that make it will be frozen, and then the plan will be to start a frozen transfer cycle at the end of November. So God willing, we could be pregnant by the end of the year, and that is insane and wonderful to think about. But that's, I guess, what I know now. It was a whole lot of information, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below. You can always find me on Instagram as well. Same name, Faith in the Wait. It's been a busy but really great few months. Oh, I also just quit my job in preparation for IVF. My job was very high stress, given the nature of just everything that I do for a living, and so I decided it was time for me to take a step back from that high stress environment so that we can be as successful as possible with IVF. And so instead I'm just going to focus on what I've been doing as a side gig so far, which is dog sitting, dog walking, and we've been doing very well with that, actually. So I think that transferring that to be what I do all of the time will be healthier for me, and will also I should end up making about as much, if not more eventually, than what I was doing before. So that's pretty exciting. But that's what I know so far. That's where we're at. Like I said, the PESA procedure is scheduled for next week. We'll know more at that point, and I guess I'll update you then. I'm going to have a little bit more discretionary time in my hands soon, so I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, if you have any questions, just feel free to shoot me a message or leave me a comment. If you have any suggestions on how I can best prepare for IVF, I'd love to hear them. This is the journey that we're on. I've been reading this really wonderful book called Hannah's Hope. It's been great and helped me a lot. It's got a lot of wisdom in there for people who are trying to be faithful and not lose their way while they're enduring the difficulties of infertility. So I'd highly recommend that. I'm also going to be going to a conference, an infertility conference called Moms in the Making conference. That is going to be at the beginning of October, or the middle of October. It's like the 12th through the 14th. I am so excited. So if any of you happen to be going there, reach out. I'd love to get in touch with you beforehand. But yeah, that's where we're at. We're getting geared up and ready for IVF as much as we can, and feeling really good and really positive about all of it. Thank you so much for watching. Look forward to making more videos and telling you more about our journey to parenthood. Bye.